The moon hung low over the silver, tipped forests of Larethia, casting long, haunting shadows across the ancient stone castle where the Alpha King resided. Kaelin, the Alpha King of the Nightclaw clan, stood at the edge of the balcony, his sharp gaze tracing the treetops below. Tonight should have been just another political maneuver, a step toward solidifying alliances through an arranged marriage. Yet something in him felt hollow. Kaelin had ruled with precision, strength, and fearlessness, but the idea of this marriage, a union for power, not love, had left him bracing for emptiness. The bride, a distant noble from the Frostfangs, was a stranger he was expected to accept, to claim, and to perform the roles of king and husband flawlessly. But love had always eluded him, or so he believed. Inside the castle, preparations buzzed with tension and excitement. Servants floated like shadows, adjusting silks, polishing silver, and whispering prayers for a union that might never blossom from the heart. The grand hall gleamed with chandeliers that reflected the brilliance of the full moon, bathing every intricate carving and golden accent in a pale, ethereal light. Kaelin's wolf senses tingled as he moved through the corridors, alert to the subtle shifts in energy. There was a presence tonight, different from any he had known, a heartbeat he didn't recognize, yet one that seemed to echo in rhythm with his own. And then she arrived. The doors of the grand hall opened slowly, revealing the bride in all her unassuming elegance. Her veil, delicate as frost, kissed petals, flowed around her like a whisper. She moved with grace, yet her hands betrayed a flicker of nervousness. The court murmured, some in awe, others in polite curiosity, but Kaelin's gaze was locked on her before she even fully entered the hall. As tradition demanded, the veil remained over her face, concealing the expression that would determine so much of the night's proceedings. Kaelin felt the weight of expectation on him, but an unfamiliar pulse of anticipation ran through his veins. The ceremony began, each word of the ancient vows striking chords of duty and inevitability. Kaelin's heart, though guarded, thumped in measured strength. And then came the moment, the veil drop. The bride lowered her hands, the fine silk gliding away from her face. And in that instant, Kaelin felt the world shift. The court seemed to vanish. The chandeliers blurred. Time slowed as his eyes met hers. Her gaze, luminous and unwavering, struck him like lightning. Her eyes were a tempest, feral, daring, tender, and unyielding all at once. She was no timid noble bride. She was fire-wrapped in silk, a wildness he had never known he craved. Kaelin's breath caught. His wolf stirred, alert and yearning. A primal response he had not felt in years. Every instinct screamed at him to claim, to protect, to possess. But beneath it something far more dangerous flickered desire. Not the shallow kind bred from appearances or obligation, but a raw, undeniable pull that threatened to undo the meticulous control he had always maintained. The hush of the court pressed in around them, but Kaelin could barely hear the whispered blessings or the ceremonial chants. All that existed was her, the veiled stranger who had stopped his heart without a word, without a touch, simply by revealing her face. In that moment, the Alpha King understood that this arranged marriage would not be loveless. Love, or something far more intoxicating, had found him first. And with that realization, the first thread of an unexpected, passionate, and dangerous bond began to weave itself into the tapestry of the Nightclaw legacy. Secrets behind the veil. The night after the wedding, the castle of Nightclaw hummed with quiet unrest. Servants tiptoed through hallways, anxious whispers curling around the stone walls like smoke. Kaelin, however, was wide awake, pacing his private chambers. The memory of her eyes, the storm within them, refused to fade. He had expected a lifeless formality, a bride who would blend into the shadows of power, obedient and unseen. But she had defied that expectation in the first heartbeat he had laid eyes on her. She had awakened something primal, untamed, inside him, a hunger that was not just physical, but a deep, cloying fascination. Kaelin's wolf shifted beneath his skin, restless and alert. It could sense her presence even now, somewhere in the castle, and the scent was intoxicating, a mix of lavender, moonlight, and something wild, untamed, as if the forest itself had breathed her into existence. Meanwhile, in her chambers, Lyra, the bride who had stopped the Alpha King's heart, sat quietly before a mirror. She ran her fingers over the delicate embroidery of her wedding dress, her mind racing. She had known her marriage would be political, a cage of silver and silk. Yet nothing had prepared her for the impact of Kaelin's gaze. He was not what she expected. The Alpha King, feared, respected, untouchable, was a force of nature, both terrifying and magnetic. And yet, in his eyes, she had glimpsed something she did not expect: curiosity, a hint of awe, and perhaps even longing. Lyra had a secret. One that could destroy everything. One that had made her keep her veil over her face until the very last moment. The Nightclaw Alpha would not have married her if he had known the truth. And yet, now that she had seen the flash of shock and desire in his eyes, she wondered if he could forgive it, if he could accept it, if he could even want her despite it. Later that night, Kaelin could no longer resist the pull. His steps were silent as shadows, guided by instincts honed over decades of ruling a pack. He found himself outside her chamber door, hand resting on the cold wood, debating the audacity of what he was about to do. With a deep, steadying breath, he pushed the door open. Lyra looked up at him, her expression a mixture of surprise and defiance. "Alpha Kaelin," she whispered, her voice trembling but controlled. He silenced her with a finger to her lips, his eyes dark, commanding yet strangely vulnerable. Do not speak, he said, voice low, rough like gravel under moonlight. I don't care for titles tonight. I care for this. His gaze swept over her, consuming every detail, the curve of her jaw, the fire in her eyes, the slight tremble in her hands. Do you know what you do to me? Lyra swallowed hard, her secret threatening to spill. She began again, but Kaelan stepped closer, his presence overwhelming yet intoxicating. I will not ask your permission, he said, voice a growl that resonated through her chest. But I will give you one chance, tell me the truth. All of it now. Her pulse raced, her heart caught between fear and desire. The truth, once revealed, could either bind them forever, or shatter the fragile trust forming between them. Kaelan's wolf prowled beneath the surface, restless, sensing her hesitation. Every instinct screamed that she was extraordinary, unlike any mate he had ever encountered, or even imagined. He wanted her fully, not just her obedience but her fire, her mind, her secrets. Lyra closed her eyes, taking a deep, steadying breath. Kaelan, I am not just a bride for political gain, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. There are things about me, things you must know before you can truly claim me. Kaelan's eyes narrowed, a mixture of caution and hunger. Then tell me, I am not a man who turns away from truth, Lyra. Speak it, or be prepared for me to discover it in my own way. The tension in the room was palpable. The air shimmered with desire, danger, and the unspoken promise of power and passion colliding. Lyra felt the weight of her secret pressing against her chest. The moment of revelation had come, and it would change everything. The veil of secrets. Lyra's hands trembled as she faced Kaelan, the Alpha King whose presence filled the room with a heat that made the air feel thick. Every instinct screamed that this was a moment of truth, that revealing her secret could either bind them together or destroy everything before it even began. I am not entirely who you think I am, she confessed, her voice quivering yet resolute. I am not only the Frostfang noble you were told to marry. I am the last of the Shadowfang lineage. Kaelan's eyes narrowed, dark and penetrating. His wolf stirred beneath the surface, tense and alert. Shadowfangs were a long-forgotten rival clan, thought extinct for centuries. The revelation was shocking. To have one of their hairs standing before him, veiled, unassuming yet commanding his attention, was an affront and a temptation wrapped in silk. You're what? His voice was low, a growl barely held in check. Explain. Now. Lyra swallowed and stepped closer, feeling the magnetic pull between them as though the moon itself had drawn them together. My family was wiped out almost. I survived in secrecy, hidden to protect myself. I could never reveal who I truly was, or your court and yours truly would have rejected me. I came here to marry, to protect myself, yes, but also to find a place where I could be safe. I never imagined. Her gaze faltered, then strengthened. I never imagined I would meet someone like you. Kaelan's chest heaved. His mind raced, a storm of anger, desire, and something far more dangerous. Fascination. She was forbidden, dangerous, a threat to the delicate balance of his rule. And yet she had already ensnared his heart with a single glance beneath the veil. You lied to me, he said, stepping closer, his eyes never leaving hers. You could have been my enemy in every sense. And yet, here you are standing before me. Why should I not see this as a betrayal? Lyra's wolf stirred beneath her skin, sensing his hesitation, his tension, his power. She took a deliberate step closer, letting their energies intertwine. Because you already don't see me as your enemy. You saw me for who I am, not what I am supposed to be. And you wanted me even when you had every reason not to. Kaelan's wolf growled low in his throat, a warning and a plea wrapped together. Desire clawed at him, untamed and raw, urging him forward even as reason screamed to hold back. He closed the final distance between them, his hand brushing against her cheek, tracing the line of her jaw. You are dangerous, he whispered, his lips inches from hers. Not just because of your lineage, not because of what you could mean to my kingdom, but because you make me feel like I never thought I could again. You've stopped my heart once with your veil, Lyra. Now you stand here, defying me, tempting me, and I cannot resist. Lyra's breath caught. She had spent years hiding, surviving, concealing her identity. But the pull between them was undeniable, magnetic, and more potent than any fear. Kaelan, he silenced her with a kiss, not gentle, but urgent and commanding. The kiss carried every unspoken thought, every long-suppressed desire, every danger and promise they shared. Her body trembled under his strength, her wolf instinctively recognizing the dominance and protection he offered. In that instant, the boundaries between bride and king, secret and truth, desire and duty dissolved. They were no longer two strangers bound by politics. They were a storm, feral and consuming. Drawn together by forces neither could resist. Pulling back just slightly, Kaelan rested his forehead against hers, breathing heavily. We are both playing with fire, Lyra. Your secret, my instincts, if anyone knew, it could destroy us. And yet I do not care. You are mine. Lyra's hands found his chest, feeling the steady, powerful rhythm of his heart. Then I am yours, she whispered. All of me, Kaelan. Secrets, lineage, everything, yours. The moonlight spilled through her chamber window, illuminating their union as wolves howled in the distance, a haunting symphony of the wild. echoing the beginning of a love that would defy clans' conventions, and the very night itself. Fire in the court. The following morning, the castle of Nightclaw seemed unchanged, yet everything had shifted for Kaelin and Lyra. To the court, the Alpha King's marriage had been consummated in secrecy, perfectly formal, flawless on the surface. But beneath the layers of silk and stone, a tempest brewed. Kaelin prowled the halls like a wolf sensing prey or danger. His mind could not release the image of Lyra in his arms, her defiance entwined with her vulnerability. She was both fire and frost, untamed and irresistible, a mate unlike any he had ever imagined. Lyra, meanwhile, walked through the gilded corridors with grace, yet her mind raced. Every glance from the courtiers, every whisper, threatened to expose her secret. The Shadowfang lineage she carried was not merely a curiosity, it was a weapon, a challenge, and a scandal waiting to erupt. She could feel the eyes of Kaelin's council lingering on her, trying to decipher who she truly was. By midday, the tension reached a breaking point. The Grand Council convened to discuss the political implications of the marriage, unaware of the revelation Kaelin had learned. Advisors muttered about alliances, wealth, and power, but Kaelin's mind was focused entirely on Lyra, on the fire she ignited, and on the danger that her secret represented. An emissary arrived from a neighboring clan, the Silverfangs, bringing news that shook the room. "Your Majesty," the envoy began, bowing low, "there are rumors of a surviving Shadowfang. If true, this could destabilize the entire region. How will the Nightclaw clan respond?" Kaelin's jaw tightened, his wolf prowling under his skin. He had already known the truth. The rumors were true. Lyra was the last Shadowfang. But now the court was on the brink of discovering it, and they would see her not as a bride, but as a threat, a rival, a pawn in the deadly game of power. Kaelin's eyes found hers across the hall. Lyra's gaze met his unwavering, and the silent message passed between them. "We survived this together." After the council, Kaelin escorted her to the highest balcony, where the wind tore at their clothes and the castle's height made the forest below appear endless. "Do you understand what this means?" he asked, voice low and dangerous. "If they discover your identity, if they learn you are the last Shadowfang, they will try to control you, to use you. They will test me, test us." Lyra met his eyes, fire igniting in her own. "Then let them try. I have survived worse. And now with you, I will not run, I will not hide. I will fight and I will stand beside you." Kaelin's wolf growled low, satisfied and aroused. He closed the distance between them, his lips brushing hers in a kiss that was both promise and warning. "Then we fight together," he murmured, "and we burn down anything that dares to threaten what is ours." The intensity between them deepened, passion and danger entwining. In that moment, the castle walls, the whispers, the politics, all of it faded. The only thing that mattered was the storm they had ignited in each other. That night, in the privacy of Kaelin's chambers, their union became more than desire. Every touch, every glance, every shared breath drew them deeper into a bond that was both primal and profound. Lyra's hands traced the power in his arms, the dominance in his stance, while Kaelin claimed her in a way that left no doubt she was his completely. Outside, wolves howled at the full moon, echoing the passion and fury of a love that defied clans, secrets, and expectations. Inside, Kaelin and Lyra surrendered to the wild, intoxicating fire between them, knowing that the battles ahead, political, personal, and primal, would only make their bond stronger, fiercer, and more unbreakable. Shadows of rival clans. The dawn brought no peace to Nightclaw Castle. Mist clung to the stone battlements, curling around the towers like restless spirits. Kaelin stood at the highest turret, the wind tearing through his dark hair as he surveyed the forest below. His wolf prowled beneath his skin, senses taut, alert to every rustle of leaves, every shadow that dared to move. Lyra approached silently, her footsteps soft against the stone. She had never been more aware of the dangers surrounding them, the rival clans, the council, the whispers of betrayal. Yet she carried herself with an unyielding grace, a quiet defiance that matched Kaelin's own. "You can feel them, can't you?" she asked, her voice low, almost a whisper against the wind. Kaelin's gaze sharpened. "Yes, the Silverfangs and the Crimson Talons. Both know something is stirring, they smell weakness or perhaps opportunity." Lyra's eyes darkened, the fire in her veins awakening. "Let them come. We are not prey. We are not to be taken lightly." Kaelin turned to her, his hand finding hers, a grip both protective and possessive. "You are not just my bride, Lyra. You are my mate, my equal, my storm. And anyone who dares challenge you or me will regret it." Their alliance was more than marriage, it was a fusion of power, passion, and ferocity. But even as their connection deepened, so too did the threats surrounding them. The surviving Shadowfang heir had enemies, and the Nightclaw throne was a prize many coveted. That night, the castle erupted in chaos. Scouts reported movements at the forest edge, the rustle of weapons, and the glint of moonlight on steel. Kaelin and Lyra, bound together by instinct and desire, moved as one. In the great hall, they faced the first emissaries of the Silverfangs. Their leader, a towering wolf in human form with eyes like molten silver, bowed with false civility. "Alpha Kaelin, Lady Lyra," he said, voice smooth but deadly. "It seems your union has ruffled feathers. The Shadowfang blood you harbor, Lady Lyra, it cannot remain unchallenged." Kaelin stepped forward, aura flaring, wolf beneath the skin rising in strength. You miscalculate if you think I will allow harm to come to my mate, or my clan, he growled. His words carried the weight of centuries of dominance, and the hall seemed to tremble under their power. Lyra, standing beside him, met the emissary's gaze without fear. I am not a pawn, she said, voice steady. I am Shadowfang, I am Nightclaw, and we will not bow to threats or intimidation. Step back or face the consequences. The tension ignited like lightning striking dry tinder. The emissaries stiffened, knowing they were confronting more than an alpha king. They faced a king whose mate matched him in ferocity, intelligence, and primal power. That night, under the silver glow of the full moon, Kaelin and Lyra retreated to the private gardens of the castle. The scent of night-blooming jasmine mingled with the crisp forest air, creating a sanctuary where desire and strategy intertwined. Kaelin pressed her against the marble balustrade, the heat of his body a living promise. Tonight, we are more than threats in politics. Tonight, we are fire and flesh, Lyra. Nothing outside these walls matters. Lyra's hands tangled in his dark hair, her lips capturing his in a kiss that was both rebellion and surrender. The world could wait. Rival clans, secrets, and dangers be damned, they had each other, and that was a power stronger than any army, any council, any ancient grudge. As their bodies pressed together, their hearts aligned with the rhythm of the wild, Kaelin and Lyra realized that love had found them amidst intrigue and danger. And the bond they forged that night, fiery, raw, unyielding, would make them unstoppable. Outside, the forest whispered, wolves howled, and the night waited with bated breath. For the Alpha King and his Shadowfang mate, this was only the beginning. Betrayal beneath the moon. The following days in Nightclaw Castle were a delicate dance of power and deception. Kaelin's senses, sharp as a wolf's, never rested. Every whisper in the corridors, every cautious glance from the courtiers, hinted at plotting, jealousy, and ambition. And beneath it all, Lyra felt the tension coiling like a serpent, danger lurking where least expected. One evening, as the full moon rose high, a sealed message arrived, its seal bearing a mark Kaelin recognized instantly, the Crimson Talons. Kaelin's wolf growled low in his chest as he broke the seal. The message was simple, yet loaded with threat. The Shadowfang hair is in our sights. Step aside, or watch your mate fall before your eyes. Lyra's hands trembled slightly as Kaelin read the words aloud, but her gaze remained defiant. They will not touch me, she said firmly. Not while I breathe. Not while I stand beside you. Kaelin stepped closer, his aura darkening with dominance and protective fury. You are mine, Lyra, and anyone who dares lay a hand on you will pay with everything they have, and more. We must be ready. Tonight, you stay close. That night, the castle seemed alive with tension. Shadows moved differently under the moonlight, footsteps echoed with hidden intent, and Kaelin's wolf prowled beneath his skin, senses extending to every corner of the stone fortress. Lyra, despite her fear, felt the fire within. Her Shadowfang blood surged, primal and strong, intertwining with Kaelin's power. Together, they were a force that rival clans could never predict or contain. Suddenly, a commotion erupted in the outer courtyard. Figures clad in dark, silver-tinged armor moved with deadly precision, aiming to breach the castle's defenses. Kaelin's wolf snarled, and in a blur of movement he and Lyra were at the front lines. Lyra's eyes glowed with feral intensity, her claws emerging, fangs flashing under the moonlight. She moved with lethal grace. Every strike precise, every motion a dance of survival and vengeance. Kaelin was beside her, his strength unmatched, his dominance terrifying and magnetic. Together they fought not just as alpha and bride, but as mates bound by fire, blood, and unyielding love. In the chaos, Kaelin's hand found Lyra's. Their eyes met, and in that fleeting moment, the world fell away. Every danger, every rival, every whisper of betrayal became nothing. All that existed was them, their bond, their power, their desire. When the last attacker fell, the courtyard quieted, shrouded in the silver haze of moonlight. Kaelin pulled Lyra close, pressing his forehead to hers, breathing in her scent, drinking in the reality that she was alive, defiant, and entirely his. You are incredible, he whispered, voice rough with emotion and lust. Every instinct in me, every ounce of power, belongs to you. Lyra smiled, a fierce, triumphant smile. And you are mine, Kaelin. Every part of you, every shadow and storm. Together we are unstoppable. The night embraced them wild and eternal. Wolves howled in the distance, echoing the fire and fury of their love. In the aftermath of betrayal and battle, Kaelin and Lyra discovered not just desire, but an unbreakable bond, a force that no rival, no secret, no danger could sever. But even as they clung to each other, the shadows of rival clans lingered beyond the walls, waiting, watching, and plotting. The Alpha King and his Shadowfang mate knew that their greatest trials were still to come, and that every heartbeat together was a defiance against the world itself. Flames of desire and danger. The castle of Nightclaw had never felt so alive, or so perilous. Every corridor, every shadowed corner, carried whispers of schemes, of envy, of danger. Kaelin and Lyra had survived the first attack, but they both knew it was only the beginning. The rival clans, Silverfangs and Crimson Talons alike, would not rest. In the privacy of the Alpha King's chambers, Kaelin stood before Lyra, his eyes blazing with both protective fury and unrestrained desire. The memory of her feral grace in battle, her defiance in the face of danger, had ignited something within him that he could no longer deny. You are reckless. he murmured, brushing a strand of hair from her face, his touch electric. You put yourself in danger knowing what could happen. You could have been hurt. Lara tilted her chin up, her eyes glinting with fire. I am not helpless, Kaelin. I am Shadowfang. I am yours. And if you think I will cower while others threaten what we have, you are mistaken. Kaelin's wolf growled low, a rumble that vibrated through the stone walls. He stepped closer, his hands bracing her against him. Every part of me is drawn to you. You are my mate, Lara. My fire, my storm, my danger. And yet you tempt me in ways I cannot resist. Their lips met in a kiss that was fierce and consuming. The intensity of their connection, built on trust, passion, and the shared fire of battle, ignited a storm within them. Clothes fell away as their bodies pressed together, every touch a declaration of power and desire. They moved together like predators, fierce and untamed, reveling in the intimacy that only mates could share. Hours passed, the moon tracing silver patterns across their skin, as Kaelin and Lara surrendered to the primal bond that had been forged through danger, secrets, and unrelenting passion. Every kiss, every caress, every whispered word solidified a connection that went beyond politics, bloodlines, and even survival. But the world outside their chamber was not still. Unseen eyes watched from the battlements, shadows slipped through hidden corridors, and alliances shifted with whispered promises of power and revenge. The rival clans were regrouping, planning their next strike, unaware that the union of Alpha and Shadowfang mate had created a force far stronger than any of them could anticipate. As dawn approached, Kaelin held Lara close, their foreheads pressed together, hearts beating in unison. This world will try to tear us apart, he murmured, voice low and full of intensity. It will challenge us, betray us, test every fiber of our bond. But I swear I will protect you. I will claim you. I will fight for you always. Lyra's hands traced the strength in his chest, her wolf howling softly beneath her skin. And I will stand with you, Kaelin. Through every battle, every shadow, every danger. Together, we are unstoppable. Outside, the forest stirred, wolves howled, and the first rays of sunlight pierced the mist. The Alpha King and his Shadowfang mate had embraced not just desire, but destiny. Their love, fierce and unyielding, was a flame that no rival, no enemy, and no secret could extinguish. But even as they shared a quiet moment of triumph, a new shadow crept across the horizon, a danger unlike any they had faced, one that would test the limits of their bond, their trust, and the power of their love. Kaelin's eyes darkened with determination. Whatever comes, we face it together. Lara nodded, their fingers entwined, a promise made not just in words but in the fire and storm that bound them as mates. The battle for the Nightclaw throne, for Lyra's survival, and for their love had only just begun. The hidden enemy, the castle of Nightclaw, was cloaked in an unnatural stillness. The usual hum of activity, the echo of boots on stone floors, whispers in the corridors, the soft flutter of silk, was absent, replaced by a tense silence that pressed against every wall. Kaelin could feel it, every nerve in his body alert, wolf instincts flaring like wildfire beneath his skin. Lara stood beside him in the grand hall, her eyes scanning every shadow. Her Shadowfang senses, sharpened by generations of survival, detected the subtle shifts in the air, the faint metallic tang of hidden weapons, the almost imperceptible hum of magic in the corners, and the slow, deliberate steps of a predator moving unseen. Someone is inside the castle. Lara whispered, her voice steady but sharp, her hand brushing against the hilt of her dagger. And they are not here to negotiate. Kaelin's jaw tightened. Then we find them before they find us or you. His eyes, dark as midnight, swept over her, burning with protective fury and desire. Stay close. They moved as one through the castle, silent and lethal. Every step, every glance, every whispered word was calculated. The enemy was clever, using shadows and misdirection. But Kaelin and Lara were faster, sharper, their bond amplifying their senses. The first attack came in the courtyard, a shadowed figure lunging from the darkness. Kaelin met him with the full force of an alpha, claws and fangs flashing, while Lyra's strikes were precise and deadly. Together, they were a storm of fire and steel, overwhelming their foes with the strength of their bond and the fury of their shared instincts. Yet the battle was only a distraction. From the highest tower, a figure observed them, cloaked in black, their face hidden, their intentions clear. The enemy had been inside all along. Kaelin's wolf growled low as he sensed the presence before him. There, he hissed, pointing toward the shadows. Lara followed his gaze, her own wolf instincts flaring. The figure stepped into the moonlight, a familiar face twisted with betrayal. Kaelin. The voice hissed, venom dripping from every word. I warned you not to claim her. You have no idea what she truly is, or what she will bring upon your clan. Lara's heart clenched. This was someone she had once trusted, a former ally from her Shadowfang past who had survived when she had thought all were gone. Their motives were shrouded in revenge, jealousy, and greed. Kaelin advanced, fury radiating from every muscle, every claw, every line of his jaw. Step forward, coward. Face me. If you touch her, I will not stop until every piece of you is destroyed. The enemy laughed, a chilling, hollow sound. Destroy me? No, Alpha. You cannot stop what is coming. Your mate carries the Shadowfang legacy, yes, but she also carries a curse, and when it awakens, even you will not be able to save her, or yourself. Lara's eyes blazed with defiance. You will not harm me, she said, voice firm. Kaelin and I are stronger than your threats, stronger than your hatred. Together we will not fall. Kaelin stepped closer, wrapping a protective arm around her, his lips brushing the side of her face. Together we are unstoppable. And anyone who dares challenge us will learn the meaning of our fire. The enemy's eyes narrowed, and with a sudden inhuman speed, they vanished into the shadows, leaving only the echo of their warning behind. Kaelin and Lyra stood together, their breaths heavy, hearts racing, adrenaline and desire intertwined. The danger had not ended, it had only grown more cunning, more personal, more inevitable. Lyra rested her forehead against Kaelin's chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heart beneath her hands. We face them together, she whispered. Kaelin's lips pressed to the crown of her head, voice low and fierce. Always. In life, in battle, in desire, you are mine. Every heartbeat, every breath, every part of you. Outside, the night whispered, wolves howled, and the shadows deepened. The Alpha King and his Shadowfang mate had been tested, but their bond had only grown stronger. And the hidden enemy lurking in the darkness would soon discover that some flames, once ignited, could not be extinguished, no matter how deep the shadows ran. Awakening of the curse. The castle of Nightclaw was heavy with tension, the air thick with the scent of danger and anticipation. Kaelin and Lyra had survived skirmishes and threats, but something deeper, darker, and far more dangerous was stirring within Lyra, a legacy she had tried to keep hidden, a curse tied to her Shadowfang blood. It began subtly. Shadows seemed to flicker around her, responding to her emotions. The night air carried whispers only she could hear, haunting echoes of her ancestors. Kaelin noticed it first when her eyes, already striking, glowed faintly in the moonlight, a soft silver that pulsed like a heartbeat. Lyra, Kaelin murmured, placing a hand on her cheek. What is happening to you? She shook her head, panic and a warring within her. It's the curse, she whispered. I feared it would awaken, but not so soon, not like this. If it fully manifests, it could change everything, even us. Kaelin's jaw tightened, his wolf growling beneath the surface. Whatever comes, we face it together. I will not let this curse harm you, or anyone we love. Lyra drew a deep, shuddering breath and focused on the control she had learned over the years. But the curse was strong, ancient, and unyielding. She felt it coil within her like a living thing, pulling at her instincts, her emotions, even her connection to Kaelin. That night, the enemy struck. The hidden Shadowfang betrayer, empowered by forbidden magic and alliances with the rival clans, infiltrated the castle with lethal precision. Shadows moved like living weapons, slicing through corridors, targeting the Alpha King's council, and threatening to separate Kaelin and Lyra. Kaelin and Lyra fought side by side, their connection amplifying their strength. Every strike, every motion, every roaring growl was synchronized. But the curse within Lyra surged, uncontrolled. Silver light flashed from her eyes and a powerful force emanated from her, sending attackers flying as though struck by the weight of the forest itself. Kaelin caught her as she trembled, the raw energy nearly overwhelming her. Hold on, he growled, pressing her to him. I've got you. We will control this together. You are mine, Lyra, no matter what awakens inside you. Lyra's lips met his in a desperate, fierce kiss, grounding herself in him, anchoring her power. His hands traced her form, steadying, commanding, protective. Their bond, alpha and mate, Shadowfang and Nightclaw, was the tether that kept the curse from consuming her entirely. But even as they fought to regain control, the betrayer appeared before them, eyes gleaming with malice. You cannot escape your destiny, Lyra, the figure hissed. The Shadowfang blood will consume you, and he will fall with you. Kaelin stepped forward, claws extended, aura blazing like a storm. I will not let that happen. You will not harm my mate, or my kingdom. Face us and face your end. The battle erupted, fierce and cinematic. Kaelin's raw alpha power clashed with the dark magic of the betrayer, while Lyra's awakening curse flared, controlled by sheer will and the bond she shared with Kaelin. The clash of power shook the castle walls, lighting the night with silver and shadow, fire and fury. In the midst of chaos, Kaelin and Lyra found each other again, their lips meeting in a desperate, passionate kiss. Every heartbeat synchronized, every breath a vow of whatever came, they would survive it together. When the dust settled, the enemy was defeated, but the curse within Lyra had left its mark. Her eyes retained a silver glint, a constant reminder of the power and danger she carried. Kaelin held her close, voice low and filled with unwavering devotion. You are mine, all of you. Curse, fire, shadow, nothing can change that. Lyra smiled, trembling but victorious. And I am yours, every part of me always. The castle breathed again, the wolves howling in the distance, echoing the bond of Alpha and Shadowfang mate. They had survived betrayal, magic, and the awakening curse. But the night whispered that greater challenges were yet to come, and that their love, fierce and unyielding, would be tested again in ways that would define their destiny forever. The Alpha's claim. Nightclaw Castle was bathed in a restless silver glow, the moon spilling its light across the battlements like liquid steel. The events of the past nights had left the Alpha King and his Shadowfang mate both exhausted and electrified. Lyra's curse had awakened, their enemies had been defeated, but whispers of new threats of rival clans plotting in the shadows persisted. Kaelin stood at the highest tower, the wind tugging at his dark cloak. His wolf prowled within, restless, sensing the tension in the forest below. Lyra joined him, silent but resolute, her hand finding his. The bond between them was stronger than ever, every heartbeat synchronized, every pulse a promise of protection and passion. "You feel it too," she said softly, eyes scanning the horizon. "They're watching, waiting for the next move. We cannot let them strike first." Kaelin's jaw tightened. "Then we strike together. No hesitation, no mercy. We are alpha and mate, and no shadow in this world can challenge that." The enemy they had thought vanquished had returned, more cunning and dangerous than ever. From the forest's edge, Silverfang and Crimson Talon warriors emerged, bolstered by dark magic and the unrelenting desire to claim the Shadowfang heir. But Kaelin and Lyra were no longer simply alpha and bride, they were a united storm, a force of raw power, fury, and desire. The battle erupted in cinematic intensity. Kaelin moved like a shadow made flesh, every strike precise, every movement lethal. Lyra, her curse now controlled but formidable, wielded her power with skill and ferocity, silver light flashing from her eyes, sending attackers sprawling. Together they were unstoppable, a fusion of Nightclaw strength and Shadowfang ferocity. Amid the chaos, Kaelin's gaze found Lyra. Her hair was tangled, her skin streaked with sweat and moonlight, yet she moved with the grace of a warrior born to the wild. Desire surged in him, raw and consuming. He crossed the battlefield to her, lifting her into his arms with a roar that shook the night. "You are mine," he declared, voice echoing like thunder. "Mine by blood, by heart, by fire, and no force in this world can take you from me." Lyra's hands clutched his shoulders, her lips finding his in a kiss that was both a promise and a declaration of dominance. The world around them seemed to vanish. The clash of steel, the howls of wolves, the magic of the enemy, all faded into insignificance. In that kiss, they reaffirmed their bond, their love, their power. The battle raged around them, but the Alpha King and his mate were a storm that no enemy could withstand. With a final surge of combined strength, Kaelin and Lyra struck down the last of the invaders. Silence fell heavy and victorious, broken only by the distant howls of Nightclaw wolves celebrating the survival of their king and his Shadowfang mate. As dawn broke, casting golden light across the castle, Kaelin held Lyra close, his lips brushing her temple. "This is our world, Lyra, our kingdom, love, and nothing will ever take it from us." Lyra rested her forehead against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heart beneath her hands. "Together, always," she whispered. "Through shadow, fire, and storm, we are unstoppable." Kaelin's wolf stirred in contentment beneath his skin. With Lyra by his side, the Alpha King knew no threat could endure, no curse could overpower, and no enemy could triumph. They were bonded, Alpha and mate, Nightclaw and Shadowfang, and the world would bend to their fire. The castle of Nightclaw stood tall, the moonlight shimmering across its towers, a testament to power, love, and the unbreakable bond of Kaelin and Lyra. Their story was only beginning, but one thing was certain: together, they would conquer everything. Alliance of fire and shadow. The victory against the Silverfangs and Crimson Talons had given Nightclaw Castle a brief reprieve, but Kaelin knew better than to trust silence. Peace in the wolf clans was always fleeting, and enemies, seen or hidden, were plotting their next move. Lyra stood beside him in the council chamber, her presence commanding, her Shadowfang power now a controlled, formidable force. The combination of their strength and unity had already begun to shift the balance of power in the region. Whispers of the Alpha King's Shadowfang mate spread like wildfire among the clans, igniting both fear and admiration. Kaelin ran a hand over the map of the territories, his eyes sharp, calculating. "We need allies," he said, voice low but firm. "The clans won't challenge us directly yet, but they will test our limits. We need loyalty, obedience, and power." Lyra's gaze met his, intense and unwavering, and they will have it, from those who respect strength, from those who fear weakness. But Kaelin, they will also watch us closely. Any sign of doubt, of faltering control, and they will strike. Kaelin's wolf growled beneath the surface, attuned to her instincts. Then we show them not hesitation but dominance. Together, their first move was subtle but lethal. Envoys from minor clans were summoned to Nightclaw Castle under the pretense of alliance talks. Kaelin's presence was commanding, magnetic, a palpable display of raw alpha power. Lyra, equally formidable, exuded confidence and a quiet threat, her Shadowfang lineage now a symbol of unshakable might. The negotiations began. Words were exchanged, alliances forged, and promises made. But beneath the formalities, a dangerous undercurrent ran: rivalries, jealousy, and the unspoken acknowledgement of the fierce bond between alpha and mate. As the envoys departed, Kaelin turned to Lyra, his eyes dark and filled with desire. "Do you feel it?" he murmured, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "Their fear, their respect, their awe. All of it is yours, mine, ours." Lyra smiled, a slow, confident curve of her lips. "And yet, we are still untamed. Even with alliances, enemies, and crowns, we remain ourselves, fierce, dangerous, unpredictable." Kaelin stepped closer, pressing his forehead to hers. "Exactly, and that makes you irresistible. Dangerous, yes, but utterly mine." Their lips met in a kiss that was both possessive and tender, a reminder that amidst politics and danger, desire and passion were their truest weapons. Every touch, every caress, every whisper between them strengthened the bond that had begun beneath a veil and had now become unbreakable. Later that night, alone in the private gardens, the air thick with the scent of jasmine and wildflowers, Kaelin claimed her fully, not just as mate, but as equal partner and predator. Lyra responded with equal fervor, their bodies moving in perfect harmony, every kiss, every stroke, every shared gasp a declaration of dominance, trust, and insatiable desire. Outside the castle walls, wolves howled in tribute to their alpha, the night alive with the pulse of fire and shadow, echoing the passion and ferocity that had bound Kaelin and Lyra together, even as political games continued, even as rival clans plotted in darkness, and even as the curse within Lyra reminded them of the ever-present danger. One truth remained unshakable: the Alpha King and his Shadowfang mate were unstoppable. Together, they were fire and storm, shadow and light, passion and power, and the world would soon learn that nothing could stand against their combined strength. The ultimate betrayal. Nightclaw Castle had never felt so alive, yet the pulse of danger ran stronger than ever. Even after the alliances had been forged, whispers of betrayal slithered through the corridors like venom. Kaelin's instincts, sharp, primal, unrelenting, told him something was coming, something personal, something that would test not just his strength, but the bond he shared with Lyra. The betrayal came when least expected. An old ally, a trusted lieutenant of Nightclaw, revealed themselves as a spy for the rival clans, feeding secrets of the castle's defenses, of Kaelin and Lyra's strategies, and even hinting at Lyra's Shadowfang curse. Their motive was simple envy, ambition, and the twisted desire to see the Alpha King fall. Kaelin's wolf growled, sharp and feral, as he confronted the traitor in the Grand Hall. "You dare betray me, betray us." His voice was low, deadly, a growl that shook the stones of the castle. "You will pay for this with everything you are." Lyra stepped forward, her eyes glowing silver, her aura radiating lethal power. "You underestimated us," she hissed. "You thought fear could control us, but you only awakened our fury. You will regret crossing the Alpha King and his mate." The confrontation exploded into violence. The traitor drew a blade, aiming for Lyra, but Kaelin intercepted, claws tearing through steel with ease. Lyra's curse flared, controlled yet devastating, sending shockwaves through the hall that threw attackers off balance and shattered any remaining illusion of safety. As the last of the traitors fell, Kaelin pulled Lyra into his arms, lips pressing her temple chest, and finally hers in a kiss that was both possessive and worshipful. "You are mine," he whispered, voice rough with emotion and desire. "All of you. No betrayal, no enemy, no curse will ever change that." Lyra's hands traced the power in his chest, her lips meeting his in a desperate, fierce kiss. "And I am yours," she murmured, "through fire, shadow, betrayal, through everything." But the night was not yet over. Even as the traitors were dealt with, the enemy who had orchestrated the infiltration remained at large, watching, waiting, planning. The final confrontation was imminent, a battle that would test their bond, their power, and their love in ways they could not yet imagine. Kaelin and Lyra retreated to the private tower, where the moonlight cast silver patterns over their entwined forms. Every touch, every whisper, every passionate embrace reinforced their connection, a shield against the dangers to come. "You are unstoppable," Kaelin murmured, hands gripping her waist, lips brushing her hairline. "And together we are invincible." Lyra smiled, a fierce, confident curve of her lips, her eyes blazing with both love and war. "Then let them come," she said. "Let them see the fire that burns between us. Let them see that the Alpha King and his Shadowfang mate will never be broken." Outside, the wolves howled, a chorus of loyalty and power, echoing the unbreakable bond of Kaelin and Lyra. The castle trembled under the promise of the coming storm, a storm fueled by love, desire, vengeance, and unrelenting strength. The ultimate battle, the final test, and the climax of their story were only just beginning, and one thing was certain: whatever came, they would face it together, unyielding, untamed, unstoppable. Storm of desire and destiny. The night had fallen over Nightclaw Castle like a velvet cloak, thick with tension and anticipation. Kaelin and Lyra knew the final confrontation was coming. The enemy who had haunted them from the shadows, who had plotted betrayal and sought to destroy their bond, would strike at any moment. The castle, the forest, and even the wolves seemed to hold their breath in anticipation. Kaelin stood at the balcony, the wind tugging at his dark cloak, muscles coiled with alpha power. His eyes scanned the horizon, every shadow a potential threat, every rustle of leaves a possible enemy. His wolf prowled within, restless, sensing the danger yet confident in the strength of the mate at his side. Lyra appeared beside him, silver eyes glinting, her Shadowfang curse a faint shimmer beneath her skin, a reminder of the power she wielded and the danger she contained. "Are you ready?" she asked, voice steady, a dangerous fire within it. Kaelin's hand found hers, fingers intertwining. "With you I am always ready. We face this together and we burn everything that stands against us." The enemy arrived like a storm, a dark force emerging from the forest with speed and ferocity unmatched. They moved as shadows, wielding weapons, magic, and malice. Kaelin and Lyra met them head-on, a perfect storm of power and desire, fury and strategy. Lyra's curse flared fully, controlled yet devastating, sending waves of energy that scattered their foes. Kaelin's claws and strength cut through the attackers with lethal precision. Together they moved as one, a living embodiment of dominance, passion, and unstoppable force. Every movement, every strike, every synchronized action was cinematic, an unstoppable fusion of Alpha King and Shadowfang mate. In the midst of battle, Kaelin lifted Lyra into his arms, carrying her through the chaos, their bodies pressed together, lips meeting in desperate, fiery kisses that fueled their strength and will to survive. "You are mine," he roared above the clash of steel and magic. "Mine in body, mind, and heart." Lyra responded, fangs flashing, claws striking, voice filled with fierce devotion. "And I am yours, Kaelin! Always, forever! Through shadow, fire, and storm!" The enemy faltered, overwhelmed by the unity and power of the Alpha King and his mate. With one final, synchronized strike, Kaelin and Lyra brought their adversaries to their knees, victorious, the castle trembling beneath the force of their combined might. As the dust settled, the moonlight reflected off their sweat-slicked skin, their eyes blazing with triumph and desire. Kaelin pressed Lyra against him, hands tracing every curve, lips claiming hers in a kiss that spoke of victory, passion, and unbreakable bonds. "You are mine," he whispered, voice rough with lust and love. "No curse, no enemy, no shadow will ever change that." Lyra smiled, her hands tracing the strength in his chest. "And I am yours," she breathed. "Together we are unstoppable." Alpha and mate fire and shadow, destiny and desire. Outside, wolves howled, echoing their triumph, while the forest shimmered under the silver glow of the moon. The castle stood as a testament to their power, love, and unity, a bond forged in danger, passion, and unyielding trust. Kaelin lifted her into his arms once more, walking through the castle as their subjects watched in awe. The Alpha King and his Shadowfang mate had conquered enemies, survived curses, and ignited a love so fierce it would be remembered for generations. And as they disappeared into the private chambers, the night held only one truth: their love, their bond, and their fire were eternal, unbreakable, and unstoppable. The storm had passed, but the fire they had ignited would burn forever.